Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Rob Smith back again for Combat Sports UK. I'm here with UFC fighter Nathan Fletcher. Nathan, how are we, mate?
I'm very good, brother. It's nice to be introduced now as UFC fighter Nathan Fletcher rather than just Nathan Fletcher. So, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for having me on, lads.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. First thing I want to mention is it's been an unbelievable time period for your gym. Next Gen MMA in Liverpool are absolutely killing it. What are you guys eating over there to be doing so well?
Do you know what's mad? Every time I do an interview, they say the same thing, and that's been going on for the last 2 or 3 years now. So it's Next Gen is technically, we are booming at the minute, but we have been for the last couple of years. You know what I mean? It's been a mad journey since sort of 2020 time. We've kind of really taken off, I feel, on the world stage, especially with Paddy and Molly, and then the European circuit. Obviously, myself, Cullen, Luke, all the guys, Gittins on Cage Warriors, Matt Bonner being the world champ over there. So it's been a good run, but I feel like every year we're just building on it. And obviously, I'm in the UFC now myself. Luke won't be too far behind. I think he's pretty much there, and then the other boys are all knocking on the door. So the gym is flying at the minute, and it's a good atmosphere to be in there. It's a good place to be. I feel like we're unstoppable at the minute.
I feel like with Luke, he's got to have that UFC contract secure now. I think being off the Contender Series, he doesn't need it. He's proved that he belongs there, and I think there's so many fun matchups for him. I think it's a no-brainer to have him in the UFC.
I think, to be honest, I think they should do him versus the kid, because the kid he was supposed to fight on Contenders got a contract last night, didn't he?
I saw. He's been they've kind of been going back and forth on Instagram. I've seen, so that fight makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's already made, so that's the one they should be doing, definitely. And I think, to be honest with you, I think once he's got the Dana White follow, I think that means you're pretty much in it. Yeah, so that should be done.
So I'm curious, in the gym, who pushes you the hardest in say sparring or just in training? Who is there any specific name who really pushes you the most?
That's a good question. I've never been asked that, actually. I spar a lot with Luke. I spar a lot with Gittins. Connor Wilson's another guy I would do a lot of rounds with. Fran Breen. A lot of the smaller guys. So obviously we've got a real good sort of contingent of bantam and feathers. And then obviously we've got the bigger boys. Paddy, Cullen does a lot of rounds with Paddy. The lightweights, welterweights, Matt Bonner, Ben Kelly, they kind of all go together. So my main sparring partners are Luke, Liam Gittins, Connor Wilson. And they all push me. The good thing is, we've all got different styles. So if I want to train for a specific opponent, I've got somebody like Luke with lightning fast hands, good striking, good boxing. I've got somebody with really good stand-up, relentless pressure, good defensive grappling in Liam Gittins. We've got Connor Wilson, who's world-class at karate. Connor Wilson's someone who I believe is really going to take off. He's put a couple of win streaks together now, and he's somebody that's kind of flown under the radar a little bit, but he is world class. And I think that at flyweight, we've kind of got guys in at each weight class now, and I think he's the next guy for us. And then Fran Breen underneath him is going to come through. But for now, I think Connor's going to be sort of the next European star anyway at flyweight. So look, there's just too many names to mention. But I literally get pushed by everyone. The gym is seriously high level, and we've got guys that are very good in each individual aspect of MMA, and guys that mix it together really well. So I'm spoiled for choice, to be honest.
And you kind of mentioned how you're now in the UFC. We'll kind of talk about that whole experience, because it was kind of a strange road to get into the UFC for you. You kind of entered the Ultimate Fighter. And first of all, I'm not too sure how it always works. How did you actually enter the Ultimate Fighter?
So my manager just approached me with it. I remember getting the phone call. Paddy was fighting Tony Ferguson in December in Las Vegas. So my team were all out there. And my coach, Paul, and my manager, Graham, just rang back and said, look, we've heard of this opportunity. There's going to be a featherweight season of the Ultimate Fighter. Now, I'm obviously naturally a bantamweight, but with the quick nature of the show and you have to fight week after week sort of thing, we thought, because I'm a pretty big bantamweight as well, so I didn't think I'd be too undersized, and I thought that it'd be a good opportunity to take it at featherweight. So that was sort of December, and then you have to put in an application. So you do it all online, send off, you fill out this big form, answering questions about yourself, because obviously it's not just your fighting skills, it's your personality, because it's a TV show. So they're asking you all crazy sort of questions, you're applying for reality TV. And then you go through an interview process. So it takes, from when I found out in December, I didn't actually find out I had the spot on the show until the week before I flew out to Vegas, which was March, I think. Yeah. So it was a 3-month period of waiting to find out I was on the show. That was crazy.
And so obviously we'll talk about when you were on the show. You had a very unfortunate injury. Kind of talk me through the injury. So I've read online it was kind of I've read broken leg, but you recovered very quick. So kind of talk me through what the actual injury was.
Oh yeah, it was broken leg. I'm like Wolverine, brother. I just heal fast. So.
With those
Nah,
adamantium bones.
yeah. What it was so you've got two bones in your leg. I fractured my fibula, so it was it was near enough a clean break essentially. But it wasn't too displaced, so I never ended up getting surgery on it. It just healed naturally. It healed pretty quick as well. I was back in the gym I say pretty quick. It was about 12 weeks all in before I was back in the gym training on it. But thankfully I didn't require any surgery and I've had no issues with it since. So it was just kind of one of those things. I think maybe I had an overuse, a stress fracture going into the show, and then where I've just taken a clean kick without shin guards on the area. Where there was maybe a bit of weakness, the bone just snapped. So yeah, it was unfortunate, but like I could push through in that fight. I didn't, to be honest, when you're in there in the heat of battle and you've got the adrenaline flowing, it was crazy. I knew something wasn't quite right with my leg, but I did not anticipate that it was broken. I thought he just caught me with a good calf kick. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, but crazy. But obviously, look, things work out the way they do. If it wasn't for injuring myself there, I don't know how the rest of the show would have gone, and I might not have got the opportunity to fight, on the finals, or actually 2 weeks after the finals because of all that went down as well. So it's been a fucking mad journey, like crazy ups and downs. But eventually we got there, so I'm happy with the way it all went.
Yeah, and that's another thing I want to talk about is obviously you got brought back, and it's not always common that a fighter gets brought back after a loss. So was it anything from the UFC that they spoke to you directly about that, or was it anything coming from like Dana White himself, or the UFC said like, look, we're going to bring you back and give you another opportunity?
So it was, to be honest, it's weird the way it worked. After the show, I didn't really have much contact. I'd speak to, because the show is done by a production company. It's not necessarily UFC. Like obviously it is to do with the UFC, but it's like a separate production company. What do it all? So I was speaking to one of the guys there, Joey, and we stayed in touch a little bit after the show. But it wasn't until probably 6 weeks out from the actual finals where I found out through my manager that there was a chance to fight on it. So I'd been getting back into training, taking it easy, obviously, because I'd come off an injury. And in my mind, I was thinking I'll probably go back to Cage Warriors, get another couple of wins there, and then, get my name in the hat again for getting signed. But yeah, Graham called me about 6 weeks out and said, "Will you be ready for the end of August?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not turning down this opportunity." Do you know what I mean? 100%. I'll be ready. Despite what I mean, if I'm being completely honest now, looking back, I wasn't in great shape to take a fight. Do you know what I mean? But like, you don't turn down the UFC no matter what.
Yeah.
So yeah, we took it, crammed in a training camp, and got the job done. So it's all good.
And you were scheduled to fight. You were scheduled on two different occasions. The first time, I believe, it was yourself that you had to pull out through illness. Is that correct?
Yeah, so basically, again, this is why it's just the sport's crazy, mate. And like to talk through, I ended up getting this UFC like contract now. It's a madness. So obviously the injury on the show, then you get 6 weeks notice. You're fighting against a tough guy in 9-2. Again, featherweight. Like I am naturally a bantamweight. So this whole season, every opponent I've had to face has been up a weight class for me, really. And then I'm going in probably not in the best shape of my life, and I got a staph infection right at the end of camp. Oh. So you can still see the scar on my arm there a little bit. I had two.
Oh yeah, you can, yeah.
During the camp, there's another one. It's gonna be tricep there.
I was gonna say you from the flex on the zone. That's all that is.
I'm like open there. That's Open's pose, isn't it? Over there. But no. So I had two staph infections basically, and the way I treated them with antibiotics, like you're supposed to do, went to my doctor, got antibiotics, finished the second course before flying to Vegas, and so I thought it was dead. But obviously, staph's quite nasty if you've ever seen it, and it can leave like a scab. That's why it's still scarred on my arm. So basically, the athletic commission, because you have to pass when it's UFC and in Nevada, you have to get past the athletic commission. So it's not just the UFC who like clear you to fight. You have to go through a governing body as well. So the doctor from the athletic commission essentially on fight day decided that I was still infectious, or like it wasn't quite gone. So it wasn't safe for me to get in the cage and fight because I could spread it on to my opponent and other people and stuff. So they pulled me. Literally, I got pulled like 30 minutes before I was supposed to fight. That was crazy. And then thankfully, again, Graham, so I was on the phone to Graham straight away, my manager, with my team. And we knew near enough right after that they were going to push it back for 2 weeks' time. So stayed in Vegas, kept Adam Cullen out there with me. And it was a crazy 3 weeks, mate. And then got the job done finally on the 7th of September.
Was there any like thought when you initially got pulled out of the fight? Was there any thought of like, oh God, that's my chance gone. They're not going to give me the other opportunity again.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's because straight away it was just like the new world was falling apart. I thought like all these things that I've been through, the injuries, the setbacks, missed even on the regional scene. I had like I don't know if you know my career, but I've had a period of like 18 months out of the cage and then another 12 months out of the cage. Like it's been rough, to be honest. The last few years, um, it's been a tough process to get here. But that's why I just feel so mentally bomb-proof now because of all the adversity that I've had to come through, and not any points have wavered. Like I knew that this is where I was going to end up. I know how good I am. I know I've got the skills to be one of the best in the world. So it's just get through all the uncontrollables, get through everything that I don't have a say over, and then eventually when it's my time, it'll all come to fruition, and it did. So right after the first fight got pulled, I was just gutted, devastated, but thankfully we got it resolved relatively quick, and then I was able to switch the mindset to okay, we've got 2 more weeks here. If anything, I had more time off my antibiotics to feel better. I had more time to acclimatise to Vegas and the environment there, and I got to know all the staff for the UFC, so that was nice. We basically lived in the PI for 3 weeks, got to know all the staff. Everybody was dead sound. We made some good relationships. So I've kind of embedded myself into the UFC already, and I've only had one fight there. Do you know what I mean? So it all worked out for the best in the end.
And how was your time in Vegas? Obviously, you spoke you out there with Cullen. Did you have get to experience a lot of Vegas, or with it being fight camp was a bit more relaxed?
It was regimented. We trained every day, for the 2 weeks, but we definitely got a bit done. We went to a football game, a college football game in the Raiders Stadium. So that was pretty shit. Oh no, the Raiders. What's it called? The Allegiant, is it? The big one in Vegas. I think it's called the Allegiant Stadium.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. We went to a college football game. So now we're Tigers fans. LSU. I've got the hat somewhere. Here it is. Got my LSU hat. So we're Tigers fans
suits
now.
You. Yeah, the purple looks nice in you, mate.
My colour, mate. It's my colour. So we've done that. And we went to watch Cirque du Soleil as well, which is pretty cool in the Bellagio, I think that was. So we did little bits, yeah. Obviously, the main focus was getting the training done, but it was kind of like I went there prepared for a fight. So it was just kind of adding the finishing touches and maintaining the sort of peak shape that I was in. So we trained in the day, and then overnight we saw a little bit, yeah. I mean, I weren't going out partying, do you know what I mean? But we got to see a little bit of Vegas, so it was nice.
I can imagine after all that you've been through with this fight, and then eventually getting the job done the way that you did, must have been like so satisfying for you.
Yeah, it was nice. It's every time you win a fight, it's like almost undescribable, the feeling, because it's just such a relief. It's what all the hard work. That's why we do it. Do you know what I mean? As fighters, like it's years in the making. Every year, grinding, hours in the gym. Night after night, week after week, it just kind of piles up, and like all that time is for these moments in your career. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously a UFC debut is a massive moment, and for me that was like such an important fight because I needed to impress them. I'd lost on the show, and I was getting the opportunity to come back. And I think maybe even with just a win might not have been enough to secure my spot in the UFC. But the way I went out there and got a finish, and it was quite an exciting fight from the get go. My opponent was difficult. He was awkward. He was a bit scrambly and stuff. So it was quite an entertaining fight. And I wouldn't change anything. The way it went was perfect, and I was very, very, very happy afterwards.
Is there anything that works regarding you getting another fight?
So I haven't heard anything yet. I would like to fight again this year, definitely. I'm fresh. I mean, he did crack my nose pretty good, but I didn't take any damage. It was all sort of superficial damage. So I would like to fight in December, but I haven't heard anything yet. So I'm gonna keep working. I'm back in the gym already training. So I'll just stay ready for any opportunity. I know that activity is important in the UFC now. The biggest stars are the guys who fight back to back, especially the sort of guys you see who take a fight and then a couple of weeks later they're back in there again. They take short notice fights. They're active. That's what the fans can resonate with and relate to, and that's what the fans get behind. So my idea is to just have my face out there as much as possible and fight as much as possible. I want activity. Obviously, like I was saying before, towards the end of my Cage Warriors career, it was very broken up. I was kind of fighting and I'd have a year out. I was fighting and I'd have a long time out. So I want to be as active as possible.
Is there any particular names that you'd like to fight?
Do you know what? The roster's so big, I haven't even had the chance to look. And obviously, I got in as a featherweight, but I am planning on going back down to bantamweight. So all my eyes will be on the bantamweight division. I mean, obviously, there's names there who are in the UFC now. Kalen Loughran's one that gets thrown around because we fought before in the amateurs, and there's like a little bit of history there. Obviously, I'd be more than happy to fight him. but I'm not necessarily, dying on that. Like, get me that fight. I'm not bothered at the end of the day. I honestly believe I'm top 15 now. I believe my skill set is there and I could compete with the top 15 guys in bantamweight. So any name that gets thrown my way, I'll be happy to take that. And I just want to, like I said, activity, climb the rankings and get ranked within the next 12 to 18 months. That's my plan.
And one question I was going to ask is, and they could be retired, they could still be active. Is there a dream fight for you, like a dream matchup for you to fight?
Yeah, I've never really thought like that, to be honest. I have fighters that I look up to and that I like, but not necessarily guys that be a dream fight for me. The dream fight would be the biggest fights. I'd like to fight Sean O'Malley because you get loads of money for it. Do you know what I mean? Or Umar Nurmagomedov, or someone with a massive name would be great. But I don't really have like stylistically anyone who I think would be. Do you know what I mean? Sean O'Malley would be great because it'd be a massive fight. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, not really. I'm just focused on me, focused on myself. Do you know what I mean? Take it one step at a time. Here I am saying Sean O'Malley's name. Fucking hell, I only have one fight in the UFC. But yeah, like lads, just focus on myself. Take it one fight at a time.
Who are some of those names that like inspire you for when you're training?
Yeah, obviously my teammates. I look up to Paddy and Molly a lot because of the stuff they've done. They've kind of paved the way for us. So I see, how they've handled their careers and the positions they've been able to put themselves in. Big spots on main events, main cards. Do you know what I mean? That's sort of like I want to follow in their footsteps. But outside of my gym, I've always liked Volkanovski. I love the way he carried himself as a champion. He was one of my favourites. Max Holloway also the same. I look up to him. Guys who are just active and always improving and in massive fights. Charles Oliveira is another one. I loved him. Coming up, I love his style. I'm just a fan of the sport. Do you know what I mean? Like all these guys that you enjoy watching, all the fans enjoy watching. I'm the same. I got into the sport when I was probably 13, 14, and over the years I've followed different fighters, looked up to them all. Cody Garbrandt was one I used to really love his fighting style, especially when he fought Dominic Cruz and won the title. I was a big fan of Cody, so meeting him in Vegas was pretty surreal because like early days for me getting into it, he was one of the guys I proper sort of put up, I idolized type thing. So it was that was cool. But the sport's I love it at the minute. I'm a fan of so many fighters, and it's constantly evolving and changing and getting more exciting as the years go on. So I feel like I've got into the UFC at perfect time, and hopefully I can become one of those household names that people put, in the same breath as all those other guys I've just mentioned.
There's so many good matchups at the moment. Look, I kind of want to get your predictions for some of the big fights coming up. So we've got Alex Pereira versus Khalil Roundtree, and then for me, the hardest fight to predict in years is Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway. I cannot pick one. Who do you think wins those fights? They're
both tough to pick. I mean, I'm going to go with Pereira first. I think Pereira will be able to get the job done just because stylistically, Khalil is a striker, and I feel like he's relatively new to this Muay Thai style that he's developed.
Yeah.
So obviously Pereira's had years and years of honing his kickboxing style, and he's had success on the world stage in kickboxing. So I feel if they're going to have a stand-up fight, I think Pereira will get the knockout. But you can't write anybody out. So fighting's one of those sports that's so hard to predict no matter what level we're at. When you're talking about Holloway and Topuria, it's, again, I can see the fight going both ways. I almost don't want to say it, but I've got a feeling Topuria's going to beat him. I don't know what it is. I just think at the minute he's got a lot of momentum behind him, as is Holloway, to be honest. But I just think it's maybe a changing of the guard, and he's gonna get the job done. But has anyone ever knocked Holloway out? I don't think they have.
I think he's only been dropped once, and that was in the Gaethje fight. But even it wasn't really like a proper knockdown. Yeah. Like that's how tough he is.
There you go. So it's going to be a tough task, but yeah, I don't know. I'll probably chop and change my mind so many times.
Yeah.
Right now, how I'm feeling, I think Topuria will get it done.
And before I wrap this up, I've got some quick fire questions here for you. We'll see how they go. All right, first of all, knockout or submission?
Submission, obviously. Come on.
Triangle or rear naked choke?
Rear naked choke, definitely.
Morning training session or evening training session?
Morning training session. I get all my training done in the morning most of the time.
Fighting in the States or fighting in the UK? I feel like that's an obvious one.
Yeah, I'm fighting in the UK now. I've fought in the States, and you get taxed a lot more over there. So I'd rather fight in the UK. Get the home fan advantage as well.
Boxing or Muay Thai?
Boxing.
Now this one could cause some controversy. Liverpool or Everton?
Liverpool, but I don't really follow the footy, to be honest. But I was brought up a Liverpool fan. My dad and brothers all still follow the footy, and they support Liverpool. So I could never say Everton and live under my dad's roof. So Liverpool.
Night in or night out?
Night in, 100%. I don't party much, brother.
And then for a cheap meal, is it Chinese or a kebab?
Chinese, defo. Yeah, I prefer Chinese to a kebab. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I'm the same with that one.
yeah.
Um,
Kebabs are
um,
great. Kebab is like if you go
uh,
out, you know what I mean. If you go out and then you go to the kebab shop afterwards, but like I don't really go out much, so I'd get a little Chinese ordered in. Yeah, that'd be nice.
and my final question is, I asked Shamrock this, and I think you gave a really good answer. And obviously, you've kind of gone through, like you said, you've gone through adversity in your career, had these time periods where it's been really difficult. What advice would you give to someone who's also going through similar adversity? What would be your message to them?
I would say that it's time is very important. Let's like time sort of reveals everything. So in the moment, it's very easy to get overwhelmed and get frustrated. I can see why a lot of fighters pack it in. To be honest, I can see why a lot of guys get to sort of the cusp of the UFC and the challenges just get too much and they end up swerving it and getting a normal job, a 9 to 5. But you've got to stay patient. You've got to stay persistent and push through because if I look at my career over the last 2 years, I've 100% flown under the radar. I've 100% not really got from it what I deserve, what I feel like I deserved. I mean, obviously, what do I deserve? We don't, we all deserve what we get, but it's like I've put a lot into the sport, and it's only just now at 26 starting to pay off. And now I want to get a lot more out of the sport than what I've got from it. I want to go on to challenge for world titles. I want to be a household name in the UFC. I want to get loads of money. Do you know what I mean? So I can retire when I finish and not have to worry about what I'm going to do next. But it's been a tough journey. I've been training for 12 years now. I've been fighting pro for, I think, just over 5 years. And like, it's finally starting to pay off. But I'm sure I'll have more adversity to come. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to be prepared to battle through it. You've got to be prepared to dig deep and just keep focusing on the dream and like, don't take your eyes off that because if you work hard, you'll get there. I truly believe the cream always rises to the top. And I know I've got the potential to go to the top of the sport. So and my mind never leaves that. And I know I'll get there. So yeah, no matter what happens, all the external, focus on the internal, focus on that dream.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it. And I'll let you get back to enjoying the rest of your day, man. I just want to say thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
No, mate, I really enjoyed that. Thank you very much. That was a great interview. Cheers, Rob.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Elsa.